In today's video, I am breaking down how I made this foil text effect in After Effects. First, I'll start with the main foil on the text, and then I'm going to quickly show how I added it to the tips as well. Last, I'll explain a few of the decisions I made and how your setup might be different than mine. Just note, while I am going through step by step how to create the foil look on the text itself, I will not do the same for the tips, and I am not covering the animation at all. I'm labeling this intermediate because I'm assuming you know your way around After Effects. If you want to follow along, you can download the project file from my website down below. Let's jump into it. I have got my composition here ready to work on. So in this composition, you can see I've got 3 other compositions. The first is just my text layer, the second is my balloon tips, and the third is this string. So when you are setting this up yourself, do make sure that the tips of the balloon is separate from either the letters, or you could possibly pull this off with some shapes. I'm thinking about that, probably. Where there's a will, there's a way. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you inside of my text source, because this is what I'm going to work on first. So I've got a text layer here, and inside is my text source layer. And then I have pre-composed it, and I am now working on this composition. The first thing that I want to do is add a fill to this. So I'm going to go to Effects and Presets and type in Fill and drag this effect onto my layer, and I'm going to change this to a kind of purple. And what I want to do is actually expand this matte, and I will explain why I'm doing this in the next step. But for now, I'm just going to go to Effects and Presets and grab this simple choker and drop that onto my layer. And I'm going to drag this all the way down to, it's going to take forever. I'm just going to type -100. And then I'm actually going to go again, reason being I'm at the limit here, and I'm going to actually just go about -50, -51.4. Right, so now I have a expanded version of my text. Next thing I want to do, by the way, it kind of goes without saying, I think, but this is obviously going to work best on a rounded font because, you know, balloons. So I'm just going to select my text, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and then on this next one, I'll just switch this off for now, delete these, and I'm starting again. So first effect I want to grab is a CC glass, and I'll just drop that onto this layer. So I'm just going to come into surface and adjust these slightly. So I'll bring this up to 62.3, change the height to 79, and I'm going to drag the displacement all the way up to 500. Then I'm going to just grab another fill, drop this back on there, and I'm going to change this layer to like a kind of pink color. That one's fine. And the last effect for this layer, I'm going to go and get the matte choker. Grab this effect, drop it on. Just going to adjust the geometric softness. I'm going to drag that to about 14.5. I'll drag the choke up to about 99 and change the gray level softness to 69, and the rest of the values can be left alone. So if I switch this on and off, you can see it's just blurring the matte ever so slightly. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch this layer back on now, and you can see that the purple that we created before perfectly fills out this glass. So if you are using a different font and the purple is not filling up to the edges, just go ahead and adjust those simple choke values until it fits for your font. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is create some light in here. And I'm not going to do this with effects. I'm actually just going to use an image called an HDRI. This is what it looks like. If you are not familiar with an HDRI, they usually use them in like 3D to create like kind of reflective lights in the scenes. And I just find them helpful in After Effects as well. So you could use any image. It does not have to be an HDRI. I will find out where I got it from and just leave a link somewhere for you to find it too. But if you are using different lighting in your scene or anything, you might want something a little bit different anyway. So just a simple image will do with some obvious light like this one. But I'm just going to drag this down into my layer and drag it above this, and I'm going to press S for scale and drag this up, and I'm actually just going to unlink this and adjust these separately. That will do, and that looks fine. And I basically only want this image showing inside the outline of my text. So I'm going to go to Effects and Presets and type Set Matte, and I'm going to grab this effect and drop it onto my layer. Then I'm just going to change this to Text Base 2. Make sure to choose Effects and Masks so it completely fills out. And then I just want to blur it a little bit, so I'm going to go back to Effects and Presets, grab a Gaussian blur, drop it on, drag this up a little bit. 52.1. Right, now I'm going to come down here, I'm going to press Ctrl D on this text layer 2 and drag it above this effect. And I'm just going to delete the matte choker, delete the fill. In Surface, I'll just adjust these properties slightly again. So I'm going to drag the softness down to about 29.6, drag the height up to 100, and I'll lower the displacement to 203. Then I'm just going to go and grab the simple choker again and pull this up to 4.4. And last thing, just grab this Gaussian blur, drop it on, drag this up to about 52.1. That works nicely. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate this reflection layer. Press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and I'm just going to delete this set matte off it and just lower this slightly. 23.7 will do. Let's shut this. Then I'm going to go onto this text base tutorial 3. I'm going to go over to the track matte, and I'm just going to choose the new light layer for it to track matte. Last but not least, I'm going to come back to this light layer. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to change this to text base tutorial 3, and you can see it's now not got that blurry outline. Okay, I want to do one more thing for this. It's looking pretty good. I just want to add a little bit of movement, so I'm going to go onto this layer, press P, and just ever so slightly. Okay, this is the values I've got on the keyframe. It's the end keyframe, this is the beginning, and you know what, I'm just going to change the scale slightly so we don't have this 208.5, 234.6. So now that line is not cutting off my L. Alright, I'll switch this back off. Right, yeah, I was wondering why I could not see what I was supposed to be seeing. This track matte needs to be switched to Luma matte. So now when I press play, you can see this light is changing on these balloons. Alright, good. This is the main setup for the balloon base. So I'm going to go back to this composition, or if you were in there, you would select it all and pre-compose. And on this top layer, I'm going to finally create that foil effect, and it is with the coolest effect. It's my new favorite. I've never used this one before, and it's the vector blur, CC vector blur, and I'm just going to drop it on here. And I'm going to go and change this to perpendicular, and I'm going to change this amount, drag it all the way up to about 400. I'm going to bring the ridge smoothness up to 2.6, and I'll just alter the map's softness down to 14.1. Alright, so this is looking really good, but we're still having issues with kind of like this. This doesn't really look like a balloon to me, so my fix for this, it's a very quick fix, is just press Ctrl D and get rid of the vector blur on this duplicated layer, and I'm just going to switch it off but use it as the track matte and just cut out the shape for that. So this is what I've got so far. Now I'm going to do the tips. I'm going to switch this on. I'm going to make the changes, and then I'm just going to walk through what I've changed because it is a very similar setup. So I'll just do that and then I'll get back to it. This is the tips that I had before I've added any effects, and then I've just gone through, added a CC glass, added a fill, but used the vector blur, which did not come out so well because that effect kind of uses the different colors, right? So this is why I've kind of gone a little bit off with that one, choked it slightly to get a little bit rounded, and then I've just added a second one. I just wanted to have a couple of different colors in there, choked it a little bit, and yeah, nothing too different from the original setup, right? Which is why I'm not going to go over this again. And then on this one, back to the main composition, I've just added in another reflection layer and I've track matted it. So I just copied and pasted it from that original setup, dropped it in, and I even just lowered the opacity, as you can see, and I was like, why is it not working? It's because this has to be on as well. So yeah, that's it. The balloon needs some string. So I just really quickly wanted to jump back in and talk about some of the decisions that I made, why I made them, why you might need to make them too, and how your values and properties might differ than mine if you were, for example, using a different font, or I don't know, maybe your animation is different. Oh, before I forget, one issue that I really had was if the text was touching, you were getting some really crazy looking effects. So quick fix for that, I just didn't want them touching. Another issue that I faced was with the text itself. You remember I put these chokers on, and I think originally I had these black lines here, and I quite liked the look at the time, although I think I prefer the way it is now. But what I was finding when I was playing through was this jittering going on, this horrible artifacting. Obviously something is going on with the alpha, maybe. Well, I don't think it's the alpha, but I think because it had these sharp lines, there's something that the vector blur is having some artifacting with, which I did look up that effect, and that does have these issues. So that is why on a few of my layers I've got these simple chokers, and I use the matte choker. Same reason, I just wanted to take the colors and just blur them, because I was finding that that was fixing a bunch of that issues. So obviously if you have another font and you need to use those chokers to expand the purple out or lower it down, or you just want to experiment, just to keep that in mind. That is how I fixed it, and if you do manage to fix it, let me know. I would love that. We can all learn together. Also, if you've got the light moving, it could be causing that. Yes. What was some of the other issues? Oh, I did actually also want to say that some of you might be kind of wondering why I would use 2 of these reflection layers. And the answer is I probably could have done this with 1. To be honest, the way I go about doing these tutorials is I sit down and I listen to some music and I produce something, and then at the end, if I think it's worthy, usually a few days later, if I think it's worthy of a tutorial, I will come back and kind of go through and clean it up. All that's happened here is I've kind of produced 2 separate colors that I really liked, and I was just didn't want to sit down and figure out how to get it both onto one. It is what it is. It's not that deep, but it was bothering me, and I feel like if it's bothering me, there could be someone else out there who probably knows their way around After Effects going, why are you wasting time doing 2 layers? So that's why. I will see you in the next one. Bye!